So when you're performing a bicep curl using a 10-pound weight, the simplified math would be basically just the 10-pound weight multiplied by the 12 inches or length of my forearm. Then, as I do not know yet how much force is required to lift the movement, that's what I'm actually solving in this particular calculation. What I do know, though, is that the length of the forearm is 1 inch. Now, that's just where the muscle actually connects on the bone. So again, once again, the distance between the pivot and the hinge, so the elbow and where the bicep tendons connects to my forearm. And so to do the math, it'll be 10 pounds times the 12-inch lever equaling 120. And 120 divided by the 1-inch length of the forearm will total a force of 120 pounds. So just to put that in perspective, the next time you lift a 10-pound dumbbell and it reaches the parallel position with the ground, where it's a maximum or 100% lever, your bicep is actually being loaded with 120 pounds of load, not the 10-pound weight in your hand. Now, this is just a simple example of math used in this exercise, but for the vast majority of people, this is completely unnecessary information to know. It's simply important to understand that it exists and the method and kind of have an instinctive feel for it. Now, of course, you can use levers inefficiently by not following the correct resistance curve or by doubling a lever. Doubling a lever, that happens when you stack two levers on top of each other, meaning you must subtract that distance from the actual force arm. So a simple example, I hate these, but would be upright rows. So when you're doing a movement like this, your humerus or upper arm bone and your forearm, well, they stack on top of each other at the conclusion of the movement. So, and of course they have, varying angles whilst preferring the movement where they're not necessarily stacked on top of each other. But let's just say, hypothetically, your forearm is going to be 12 inches and your upper arm is also going to be 12 inches. Now, at the conclusion of the movement, both of these levers, if I can get it right here, they're going to be stacked almost perfectly up on top of each other, meaning very little load transference to the lateral deltoid, which is the target muscle in this exercise. Now, this is because the length of the actual lever being used is only 2 to 3 inches because of the doubling effect. Now, the reason that people will typically perform this movement is because it allows them to lift extremely heavy weight. So no doubt in their minds, loading their lateral deltoid more than if they simply lay on their side and then fully extended their upper arm and their forearm, creating a 24-inch lever with the correct resistance curve, and only use like a 10 or a 12, 15-pound dumbbell. Thus, they would maximally load their lateral deltoid without any wear or tear on their shoulder joints or straining the spine in any way. But 10 to 12 pounds doesn't look nearly as impressive as a 225-pound loaded barbell, even though the load of the lateral deltoid is the same. Heavy weight, unfortunately, does not mean heavy load being delivered to the target muscles. This is what people don't seem to understand. More often than not, it means a compromised movement, which is damaging your body and very inefficiently loading your muscles. But anyways, let's move on to Newton's third law of motion. So this is an easy one. For every reaction, there is an equal and opposite reaction. Now, most of you have heard this before, but again, very simple to understand. It basically means every time you push on something, it pushes back on you. Now, to be clear, it's not always an actual push back at you. It's not like little hands reach out of the wall and push you. When your foot hits the ground as you run, the ground doesn't push on your foot. What is happening is that the same force you are directing into the ground with your foot comes back from the ground into your foot. Now, if that's complicated, just give me a second, I'll try to make it simple. A simple way to understand this is that the force from your foot goes into the ground. Now, this is the gravitational force times your body mass. The force from the ground, called the normal force or the ground reaction force, it travels through your foot and up your legs.